Welcome back to this 15th lecture of the polymer chemistry course. I should say that welcome to the 15th lecture of this polymer chemistry course. Now, in this course, in this lecture today, we will continue our discussion on polymerization processes, different processes we start discussing in the last lecture, and then we will talk about in little detail about emulsion polymerization, and then we will begin in this lecture sort of introduce the concept of leaving radical polymerization in this lecture. So, just recap last two lectures, we discussed in detail effect of temperature on the rate of polymerization and molecular weight, and we found that in most cases if you increase the temperature, the polymerization rate goes up and simultaneously the molecular weight also comes down, except the case of photopolymerization. And we discussed the effect of pressure on the rate of polymerization and molecular weight in very briefly, and we talked about thermodynamics of chain growth polymers. We talked about the sealing temperature and relations between sealing temperature and the monomer concentration at equilibrium, and then we talked about the dependence of monomer structure on the value or the values of del H and del S, the enthalpy change and the entropy change, how that those values depend on the structure of the monomer depending upon how the double bond in a monomer is stabilized or the polymer is strained or not. And then we just begin with different processes of making polymers by radical chain polymerization, and we talked about bulk and solution polymerization in last lecture. We also talked about suspension polymerization in last lecture. Let's start with suspension polymerization once again in this lecture. Now, suspension polymerization, as we talked about in last lecture, that it is a heterogeneous polymerization where you have monomer and monomer soluble initiator, and you have aqueous medium and dispersants which actually adsorbed on the monomer droplets and prevent them sterically to collide to each other and coalesces and make large particles. And these dispersants are typically water soluble polymers like polyvinyl alcohols or poly and viridone and so on, and it could be some inorganic particles as well which can adsorb on the monomer particle size. Now, suspension polymers is similar to the bulk polymerization, except that in this case you have very tiny droplets which had dispersed in the aqueous medium, whereas in the bulk polymerization there was no such case. So, in this case, as we discussed in the last lecture, what you do, we actually dissolve the initiator in monomer and then heat it to the required temperature or the temperature we are planning to the polymerization reaction, and then the dispersion medium, which is a aqueous solution with the dispersants are added and stirred vigorously. Now, vigorous stirring form these monomer droplets into small size which is around this 100 to 500 microns, and they remain stable because they are surrounded or adsorbed by the dispersion molecules. So, they actually these dispersion molecules prevent these droplets to collide each other and form a large particles. And this kinetics of suspension polymerization is same as the bulk polymerization. The advantage is because you have this aqueous medium present as diluent. So, it is the heat dissipation which formed due to the polymerization reaction, you can easily take out that heat because of the dispersing medium. So, no such problem in case of as in the case of bulk polymerization, and because the concentration in those monomer droplets, the concentration of monomer in those monomer droplets is high, similar to bulk polymerization. So the rate of polymerization as well as the molecular weights are also high, and polymers produced in this case are in the form of beads, droplets. So you can simply at the end of the polymerization you can just separate out the beads by filtering process, and these beads should not stick to each other. If you are planning to filter the beads from the reaction medium, so it should be such that the beads should not stick to each other, and it happens if the polymer you have synthesized or you have produced is rigid. So that, and also the temperature at which is below their glass transition temperature, so they are not soft either. So basically they do not stick to each other. So this polymerization procedure are mainly for applied mainly for the polymers where glass transition temperature is well above the room temperature like PMMA, polymethyl methacrylate and so on. But not everything is good in this case, also there are disadvantages as well. Now, because you are planning to take out the polymerization at the end of the reaction in the form of beads and take it to the application, the polymerization must complete. So, you should be able to take the polymerization till the equilibrium. So, and it should be such a way that you should be able to complete the reaction as much as possible. And auto acceleration, because it is a bulk polymerization, auto acceleration will also happen, but that is not, in this case it is not that much problematic like the case of pure bulk polymerization. And if you do not want the polymers in bead shape, okay, you want the polymer as such in a powder shape or granular shape, whatever, then because the polymers are formed in bead form, it is very, sometimes it becomes very difficult if you want to isolate the polymers in the form other than beads. And of course, these beads are adsorbed at the beginning, they are adsorbed with this dispersants like water soluble polymer or the inorganic particles. So, you have to make sure you wash these beads thoroughly several times to get rid of this dispersion, but even though there could be possibilities of this dispersion remaining in the polymer beads as the impurities. So, these are the disadvantages, and as I said, these are used for the polymers whose glass transition temperature is way above room temperature, like methyl methacrylate, vinyl, other acrylic esters, vinyl acetate, vinyl chloride and so on. Another type of heterogeneous polymerization is dispersion polymerization. In this case, you have monomer dissolved in organic solvent, and the initiator is also dissolved in organic solvent, and in this case also you have organic soluble dispersant. Now, in this case the polymers which form, they are insoluble in the solvent. So, in absence of dispersant they would have precipitated from the solution, but because you have dispersant present in the medium, these polymers will remain, the dispersant will get absorbed on the surface of these polymers, and the polymers will remain as a dispersion in the polymerization medium. Now, new monomers will get absorbed onto these polymer particles, and the polymerization will take place on that monomer. So, polymer remains dispersed because the presence of dispersants, and polymers grow in size as the absorbed monomers on these polymer molecules, they get polymerized, and in this case the size of polymers are below the size what we achieved for a suspension polymers, they are about 1 to 10 microns. Other heterogeneous polymers like inversion suspension polymerization is exactly the opposite, inverse of suspension polymers, where the monomer is water soluble and the dispersing medium is organic solvent. For example, acrylamide, the polymerization of acrylamide in an organic solvent. There are other polymer type like micro suspension polymerization, where the size of the beads are in much smaller micro domain. So, the name micro suspension polymerization are used, and the polymerization could be done in a emulsion. Now, we will talk in more detail about this emulsion polymerization now. Now, in case of emulsion polymerization, you have apparently similar composition, monomer, water as a medium, surfactants as a dispersant, but the only difference in this case is that in this case you have water soluble initiator. In this suspension case you have monomer soluble initiator, you have water soluble initiator. Now, apparently it looks that this is a small difference, but this has a very far reaching implications in terms of the mechanism and the kinetics of the polymerization process in emulsion. The mechanism and the kinetics in case of emulsion polymerization do not follow a normal chain reaction polymerization kinetics or mechanism, as was the case for the earlier 4-5 process we just talked about. This mechanism and kinetics for emulsion process are quite different and complex and still not completely understood. So, research are still underway to understand the mechanism of the emulsion polymerization process. Now, the product of at the end of the polymerization you get the product, the polymer product as dispersed particles, not a bead, not a large beads like suspension polymers. There is a much smaller size, about say 0.05 to 1 microns size particles which are dispersed in a aqueous medium. Now, often this product of emulsion polymerization are termed as latex, and this latex can be directly used in several applications like paint, coatings and many other applications, where you can directly take the polymer product at the end of the emulsion and apply as a painting or coatings. Of course, you have to add the required pigment for or additives, other additives for painting applications or so on. So, as I said, the size of the particles are much smaller than suspension polymers, is about 0.05 to 1 micron, and of course, the similar type of advantages are there as in the case of suspension polymers. The heat removal is not a problem, viscosity buildup is also not a problem in this case. One of the major advantage, one of the distinct advantage for emulsion polymerization which is highlighted here is that unlike other radical polymerization, for a fixed monomer concentration the molecular weight can be increased without compromising the polymerization rate. We know from our discussion for last few lectures that if we want to increase the polymerization rate either by increasing the temperature or by increasing the initiator concentration, what happened, polymerization rate goes up, but simultaneously the molecular weight comes down. But this is the case where keeping the monomer concentration fixed, you can increase the polymerization rate without compromising the molecular weight, or you can increase the molecular weight without compromising the polymerization rate. Now, we will discuss more on the mechanistic part in a minute, then we will understand this point with little more clarity. And it are used for monomers like vinyl acetate, methyl methacrylate and other acrylic polymers, and it also applied to other copolymers like acrylonitrile butadiene styrene, ABS, and rubber and fluorinated olefins. Now, this emulsion polymerization is of great industrial importance. A lot of industrial polymers are made by this process, and it started at the time of World War II, when this first example of emulsion polymerization was done, which was emulsion polymerization was used to synthesize used to synthesize a rubber, synthetic rubber of styrene and butadiene, and which was first example of synthetic rubber, and that was synthesized during the World War II by emulsion polymerization, and that actually had a great importance in the outcome of the result of the war. So, of the process we discussed, emulsion polymerization is of great importance industrially. You should remember that. Now, let us go back and look at the mechanism of the emulsion polymerization. Now, what are the constituents? Now, say at the beginning, what are the constitutions we have? We have monomers, which is water insoluble or slightly soluble, very slightly soluble in water. Now, we have initiator, which is water soluble. These are typically the persulfate potassium or sodium persulfate or redox initiators we talked about when we talked about different types of initiators. And we have surfactant. Now, surfactants act as a dispersant, stabilizer of the large monomer droplets, we will come to that, and it also act as a solubilizer of the monomer molecules in its core, and it is also called emulsifier because it is responsible for emulsifying the medium. So, it is also called emulsifier, and it is used at quite high concentration. If you remember the concentration of the dispersant in suspension polymers, it was around 0.1 weight percent, but in this case it is much higher. So, 0.1 to 3 weight percent, and of course, these concentrations are quite high and it is far greater than the critical micellar aggregation concentration CMC of the surfactants. So, most of the surfactant molecules present in this water medium as micelles, as you can appreciate that because the surfactant concentration is quite high and CMC of the surfactants are quite low. So, the most of the surfactant molecules are present as or present in micelles, and micelles, if you are not aware, micelles are aggregation of surfactants, which because it has surfactant has both hydrophobic and hydrophilic components. By forming micelles, these molecules can hide the hydrophobic parts from the aqueous environment, and they form aggregates, and typically these aggregates are of size of 2 to 10 nanometer, and they have aggregation numbers, which means the number of surfactants per micelle is around 50 to 150. These numbers depends on the different kinds of surfactants. Now, generally anionic surfactants are used for emulsion polymerization. Typically, these are salts of fatty acids, salts of fatty acids like sodium or potassium salts of palmitate or stearate or laurate, or it sulfates like sodium lauryl sulfates or sodium dodecyl sulfate, or sulfonate like sodium benzene dodecyl benzene sulfonates. So, these are typical anionic surfactant used in this emulsion polymerization process, and typical concentration of or the ratio of water is to monomer is taken as say about 70-30 to 60-40 by weight. And of course, if you require the control of molecular weight, chain transfer agent or agents can be added if you require or as required by the scientist. So, you know what are the ingredients are there in a emulsion polymerization system. Now, let us see what happens at the beginning. At the beginning, T is equal to 0. You have water with initiator. So, I let us draw something like this, and so this is a inside is a water medium. So, you have initiator molecules dissolved in the water molecules. When you add surfactants, surfactants will form micelles. Now, I am just drawing these cartoons. So, there will be many micelles. So, let me draw 1 or 2 here. Now, I am drawing a spherical micelle. That does not mean that all the micelles are spherical or all the time micelles are spherical. Micelles or this surfactant aggregates can be other types as well, depending upon the concentration of the surfactant or the composition of the aqueous medium, whether there is salt present or not. It could be cylindrical or lamellar or other aggregates can be possible. So, in this case let us draw for simplistic the spherical micelles. So, you have surfactants mainly as micelles, but also you have free surfactant in the water medium. The concentration of these surfactants are CMC. Now, if you add monomer now, obviously there will be slight solubility, very slight solubility. So, you have I write M for the monomer. So, you have few monomer molecules. So, very small amount of monomer, I write M, they are dissolved in water. A small amount of monomer are or will be present or will be solubilized in the surfactant core, because we know that surfactant cores are hydrophobic in nature, which means they can this like while like core. So, they can solubilize any non-polar or hydrophobic molecules inside. So, when you add monomers, there are very small fraction of monomer present in a soluble in a water medium. Is very a small fraction of present as a soluble inside the surfactant micelle, and a large amount of monomers present as monopod droplets, which are stabilized by the surfactant. So, let me tell you one more time that at the beginning we dissolve the initiator in the water, and then when we add the surfactant form micelles, many micelles, and there will be some surfactant as free molecules in the water medium. Now, when you add monomers, a very small fraction of monomer would be soluble in the aqueous medium. There will be small fraction of the monomer inside the micellar core as a soluble, and large fraction, actually is greater than 95% of the fraction of the monomers will be present as large droplets. Now, let me tell you few numbers. The concentration of surfactant micelle, say micelle, are around 10 to the power 19 to 10 to the power 21 liter inverse. So, per liter of this you have this many micelles, and concentration of monomer droplets droplets, they are of the order of 10 to the power 12 to 10 to the power 14 liter inverse. Now, they are all these monomer droplets are stabilized again by adsorption of the surfactants. Now, the solubility of the monomer or the partition of the monomer outside micelle and in the aqueous medium would depend on the solubility of the monomer in aqueous solution. For example, if you consider 3 monomers like styrene, butadiene and methyl methacrylate, the solubility in water of these 3 monomers are gram per liter, butadiene 0.8 gram per liter, whereas MMA is 16 gram per liter. Obviously, the less soluble the monomer is in the aqueous medium, they will try to partition more inside the micelles. So, the factor the amount of monomer inside the micelle by the amount of monomer outside the micelle in aqueous solution are of this order 40, 5 and 2. This numbers is the ratio of the amount of monomer inside the micelle and outside. Outside means as a dissolved monomer. Okay. Obviously, styrene has the minimum solubility in the water. So, it will partition more inside the micelle. So, it has the amount of monomer inside the micelles much more compared to MMA, which has a higher solubility in water. So, as I said 95% more than 95% of the monomer present as large droplets. Now, large droplet size, this droplet size is about say 1 to 100 micron, which are quite large compared to the sizes of the surfactant micelle. So, if you compare this number and the size, then total surface area of the micelles which be much more greater than the total surface area of the monomer droplets. Because the number of micelles are much more huge compared to the monomer droplets. Obviously, even though the sizes of the micelles are smaller than the monomer droplets, the total surface area for the micelles are considerably higher compared to the total surface area of the monomer droplets. So, this is the situation. I hope you are clear what at the beginning of the emulsion polymerization. Now, you start a polymerization, that means initiator is forming say radical. Now, what happens if initiator forms radical? Initiator is forming radical. Now, this radical will react with the monomer present in the aqueous medium and form, because the concentration of these monomers is quite low. So, they can only form oligomeric species, and also this oligomeric species or oligomeric radical, propagating radical, they are also not soluble in water. So, they will try to find a place to go. Are clear? I is forming, giving rise to initiator radical, say R dot. Now, R dot will react with M. The concentration of M is very small. So, R dot will react with M and form oligomeric propagating radical. Now, because M itself is very insoluble, slightly soluble in water. So, obviously, the oligomeric radical will be even more insoluble in water. So, it will try to find space to go. Now, it can go inside micelle or it can go the monomer droplets, because that is the place where you have hydrophobic environment. Now, because the surface area of the micelles are much more, it is always 99% plus or even more time a radical or a primary radical or a propagating radical, oligomeric propagating radical will move into a surfactant micelle containing the monomer molecules rather than moving into a monomer droplets. Now, that is very important concept. And here the primary radical or the propagating radicals, they will move into the micellar core and start the reaction immediately, the polymerization reaction, rather than entering these monomer droplets. So, polymerization does not take place in the monomer droplet. Okay. Actually, if you stop the reaction after some time, you will find that less than 1%, actually less than 0.1% polymerization happens in the monomer droplet. Most of the polymerization happens inside this surfactant micelles. Now, what happened once the polymer on the propagating radical or the primary radical gets into this micellar core, they will start the polymerization reaction. Now, once they start the polymerization reaction, the monomer concentration will be lower, because monomer is getting converted into polymer. So, monomer will be supplied from the bulk via, or monomer will be supplied again inside the micellar core, and to maintain the equilibrium, this monomer droplets will supply the monomer in the solution. Are you clear? Polymerization is happening inside the micellar core, monomer concentration getting depleted. So, to replace the monomers inside the micelle, this monomer droplets will become smaller by supplying supplying monomer to the micellar core via this aqueous medium. Okay. So, what happens slowly, this micelle core will become something like this, is larger. So, after some time you have, this is a polymer particle and this contains polymer particle and free monomer, and your surfactant micelle grows in size. Now, you cannot call this as a surfactant micelle anymore, is basically now you can have to name polymer particle plus free monomer stabilized by adsorption of surfactant. You got it? So, more and more of this will generate, and so to stabilize this you require more and more surfactant. The number of surfactant which was originally present in the micelle, they are not sufficient to stabilize this. Where from they will get this surfactant micelle, they will get this surfactant. There are other micelle where the polymerization has not started. When you start this polymerization, this radical will not go in all the micelle containing monomer, because this number is much higher compared to the number of primary radicals. For example, the radical concentration typically at the beginning is R dot beginning is 10 to the power 16 liter inverse, whereas we know that concentration of micelle around 10 to the power 21. So, it is basically 10 to the power 5 times number of micelles. So, what happened that the radical will go in small number of micelles which will grow and form particles surrounded by the surfactant. Now, as these particles form more and more, this requires more and more surfactant molecules to get stabilized, which will be supplied by the micelle which are not taking part in polymerization reaction, or the inactive micelles. The micelles where polymerization is taking place, we call them active micelles, and the micelles where polymerization is not taking place, we call inactive micelles. So, inactive micelles will slowly break, releasing the monomer in the solution, and they will supply the surfactant to the growing polymer particles. So, what happened soon is situation will come where all the surfactant actually consumed, and you have a fixed number of particles which are active, okay, where the polymerization is going on. So, if you plot the conversion, we plot the conversion with time, as more and more active micelles form, or the polymerization takes place in more and more micelles, the rate conversion goes up to a certain one point where all the micelles are the inactive micelles, they are broken down, releasing all the surfactant. So, every micelles which are present, they are all active micelles, or they have already turned into the polymer particles surrounded by the surfactant molecules. So, that is, this happens within 2 to 10% of conversion, and we call this part as a stage 1. So, if you plot the rate of the polymerization rate with time, as more and more these active micelles, or the more and more micelles take part in the polymerization, the rate goes up. At the end of this stage 1, the surfactants are consumed. So, you have fixed number of particles I mean polymer particles plus free monomers surrounded by the surfactant molecules. So, they have now fixed in number. So, no more increase in the number of particles, hence no more increase in the rate of polymerization. So, that is the end of stage 2, stage 1. Now, what happened to stage 2? Now, you have what you have now? You have large monomer droplets still present, of course, the size has shrunk from the beginning, and you have the initiator molecules, and you have such particles means monomer plus polymer surrounded by the surfactant molecule. That is stage at the end of the stage 1. So, at the one more time, at the end of stage 1, you have large monomer droplets stabilized by the adsorption of surfactant molecules. Of course, this size has shrunk from the beginning. Here the initiator molecule still present in the solution. You have monomer molecules as well, and you have polymer particles, which are polymer particles plus free monomers surrounded by or stabilized by the adsorption of the surfactant molecule. This has formed by the polymerization in the surfactant micelles. There are no free micelle in this time. Okay. Now, what happened here? As more and more reaction happen, the monomer concentration get depleted. So, to supply more monomers, this size of these monomer droplets comes down, and it is supplied to the these reacting polymer particles, and because the monomer concentration inside these particles are almost remain constant. So, the polymerization rate remain almost constant throughout this stage 2. So, what happened in this stage 2? What is happening in stage 2? One more time, monomer is getting into, as the polymerization progress, monomer is getting depleted, and that is relinquished by the supply of monomer from this droplet via the aqueous medium. So, the size of this monomer is becoming smaller and smaller, and it will vanish at the end of stage 2. So, at the stage 2 you have only these particles, no surfactant, free surfactant micelles, neither you have free droplets. Okay. So, what happened now? Now, this will continue the reaction till you have the monomer present in this reaction. So, the monomer concentration inside this polymerization reactor comes down. So, the reaction rate also comes down, and till the reaction is over. So, that is stage 3. Stage 3 gets completed when this reaction gets completed. So, I hope you understand all this stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. One more time, stage 1 is completed when all the inactive surfactant micelles gets broken into for supplying surfactants to the active micelles. Stage 2, at the end of stage 2, all the monomer droplets disappeared, because the monomer has been supplied to the reacting polymer particle surrounded by the surfactant molecules, and stage 3 is basically the completion of the polymerization reaction inside those reacting or active polymer particles. Now, if we want to look at the kinetics part for this emulsion process, let us define n bar, which is the average number of radicals in a single particle. There are many such particles. So, average number of moles of radical in a single particle is n bar by Na. Na is the Avogadro number. So, the rate of polymerization inside one particle, one polymer particle, is given by, we know the expression K p m p, where this is the monomer concentration inside one particle and the radical concentration, which is given by this. Okay. That is from our knowledge. Now, let us imagine what happened inside these particles. You have a polymerization reaction going on. At beginning you have a micelle, at the beginning you had these micelles with swollen with these monomers. Once this R dot or a oligomeric propagating radical gets into this thing, they start polymerization. Now, this polymerization continue till the second radical gets into this reactor, because the size is very small. So, if the second radical gets in, the effective radical concentration goes high. So, the immediately the bimolecular termination reaction happens. So, at any point of time, it could be one radical or it could be 0 radical. it can never have more than one radical, because as soon as the second radical gets into this medium or this polymer particle, they will, the two radicals will terminate, will do the bimolecular reaction and terminate. So, at any point of time there are two possibilities, either it will have one polymerization is progressing with one propagating radical, or it have a zero radical polymerization, zero radicals in this. Now, because the radicals are entering into these micelles or the particles randomly, the probability that at any point of time, a particle have a 1 or 0 radical is same. You understand that it can have either one radical or a 0 radical, it cannot have more than one radical. Now, because these radicals are entering into these micelles or the polymer particles randomly, the probability that you will find at any point of time, the chances or the probability of finding at any point of time one radical or 0 radical is same. That means, the average number of radicals in one particle is half, because the probability of finding one radical and no radical is same. So, probability of finding one radical is or the average number of radical is half. So, in bar is half. So, we can write mu p by twice n a. Now, you have, if you have n p is a number of such particles, then total, this is the total reaction rate will be given by the rates in individual particle multiplied by the total number of particles. So, that is the rate of polymerization, and this can be increased by increasing N p, which is the number of such particle which is taking part in the reaction. That can be increased by increasing the surfactant concentration or by increasing the number of micelles. If you increase the number of micelles, then it is likely that number of micelles is taking part in polymerization is more compared to a situation where you have less number of micelles. So, if you increase the number of micelles by increasing the number surfactant concentration, you will increase INP, and then you will increase the rate of polymerization. What is the molecular weight? Now, kinetic chain length in this case is same as degrees of polymerization. We talked about this before, that if you have two kinetic chain and if they are terminating by a combination reaction, then the molecular weight is double than the length of the kinetic chain. If they are doing termination by disproportionation, then the xn is same as the kinetic chain length. But in this case, because how does the termination happens? It happens as soon as the second one gets in. So, if you have a polymer particle of this size which was undergoing the propagation, now you have some second radical comes in and they will undergo immediately termination reaction. Now, this size, the size of these radicals or size of this oligomeric propagating radical is much smaller, very oligomeric in nature. So, whether they terminate by disproportionation or they terminate by a combination, the size of the final dead chain is same as the size of this kinetic chain length. You can ignore, or this size contribution due to this entering propagating radical is insignificant. So, we can write xn degrees of polymerization, that is in, and the polymerization is forming in a particle. So, we can write the rate of polymerization by rate of initiation in a particle. So, R p we know, we have just now deduced, this is m p by 2 a n a, that is R p. Now, R I is what? Is given by n p by R I, where R I is the total initiation rate, total number of initiator is generating, and n p is the number of particle where they are going. So, for one particle the initiation would be given by R I by n p. So, R I, which is the initiation rate for a single particle, will be total initiated rate by the number of particles. Okay. So, I just putting this R I here to get this. Okay. So, you get the molecular weight as this. So, if you fix or if you do not change the initiation reaction, the molecular weight again goes up with n p. So, with single handle, by just increasing n p, you can now increase the molecular weight of the polymer, and at the same time you can increase the polymerization rate, okay, which is not happened in the earlier case, where if you increase the initiation rate, the polymer molecular weight comes down, at the same where the polymerization rate goes up. So, this is one very advantageous advantage of the your emulsion polymerization, where n p, as n p goes up, which you can achieve by increasing the surfactant concentration and increasing the number of micellar concentration, both the R p rate of polymerization goes up, as well as the number average degrees of polymerization. Now, at any point of time you can find out the size of this emulsion the particles like micellar particles or the droplets by help of this electron microscopy or light scattering technique or ultracentrifugation. If you want to probe in a real scenario, if you probe the reaction, find out the what is the size of these your polymer particles or so on. So, I hope you understood this emulsion polymerization part, and what we will do, we will next move to the discussion on leaving radical polymerization. Now, by this time we know that molecular weight in a normal polymerization, radical polymerization comes down. In a steady state, the molecular weight comes down as time goes, sorry, it is the other way around, molecular weight goes up as time progresses or time increases. I am talking about steady state, because most of the time the reaction happens in a steady state. If gel effect or other complication happen, then the situation is more complicated to simply conclude. So, the polymers form at the beginning will have low molecular weight, whereas if you increase or if when the polymers is producing later on during the reaction, the size increases. That we have rationalized, because the concentration of monomer also goes down, concentration of initiator also goes down, but as the concentration of initiator goes down faster than the monomer, so effectively the monomer molecular weight increases. It also true for normal radical polymerization that the polymers are dead. which means that you once the polymerization is complete, you cannot take these polymers and add the second monomer to make a block of polymer or something other than. So, if you design a mechanism by which you can start all the polymers together, so if you can design a mechanism where you can start all the polymers together and let all these polymers undergo polymerization or propagation for same duration. So, what you have initiated lot of polymers together, all the polymers together, and you have continuing all these polymers are undergoing polymer propagation reaction during the same duration. Now, that is only possible if these polymers are live, that means they do not undergo this bimolecular termination reaction. If they undergo bimolecular termination reaction, they will be dead immediately and they will not be able to continue the propagation chain. So, what we will do, and if they are live, they will remain live at the end of the polymerization as well. If they can be live all this time, which is quite a longer time compared to a termination reaction, then there is no reason why they will be dead at the end of the polymerization. So, they will still be live at the end of the polymerization. So, you can use this and make the block of polymers. So, what we will do in the next lecture, we will talk about the strategies by which we can achieve these situations, so that we can make all the polymer chains of similar size, because they have started from same time and continued for same time. So, all the polymers will be of similar size, so PDI will be lower and they will be live all the time. So, say at the end of the polymerization they will also be live. So, we will see what are the strategies we can take to make such a requirement fulfilled. Okay. So, we will start from this slide in the next lecture.